Joining me now is Danyel Reiche, a visiting associate professor at Georgetown University, Qatar, where he leads a research initiative on the FIFA World Cup. Danyel, thank you very much for your time. There's a lot of discontent over the holding of this event in Qatar. Even the former head of FIFA, Sepp Blatter, calling the selection of Qatar a mistake. Do the Qatari authorities genuinely believe that at the end of the day, all will be forgotten once the tournament gets underway?
Well, we need to see why Qatar is so heavily investing into sports. And Qatar is a small state, and the primary goal of small states is to overcome their invisibility. People who work in Qatar since the 1980s are telling when they would travel at that time, nobody would knew Qatar. This has certainly changed. Qatar hosted its first international sporting event in 1993, a men's ATP tennis tournament, won by Boris Becker. And so the World Cup is now a part of a process that started around 30 years ago, and everybody knows Qatar. So the primary goal has been achieved to be on the map, to be visible. But there are also other objectives, of course, of gaining soft power and influence in international affairs, but also contributing to national security.
When you say it's put Qatar on the map, it's also put Qatar on the map in perhaps not the most positive fashion. I mean, the Human Rights Watch report in 2021 found that the country's laws, regulations and practices impose discriminatory male guardianship rules, which deny the women the right to make key decisions about their lives. That's 51% of the population who are not free to make their own decisions. So how is the staging of this event going to improve conditions for women, for the gay community, not to mention migrant workers and so on?
Yeah, it's a thin line between soft power and soft disempowerment. So certainly the World Cup put so much spotlight on Qatar. On the other hand, nobody really cared about Qatar and the issues you mentioned before the country has been awarded the World Cup in December 2010. I think that we have seen some improvements. We could argue that they came far too late, but in the last 2 years, there has been a plethora of reforms to the benefit of the migrant workers, starting from the first minimum wage in the region to the dismantling of the kafala system. So one can switch now jobs without approval of the employer. One can leave the country without needing an exit permit. And I think most important, summer hours where outside work is prohibited has been extended now. Is Qatar now a perfect place? No, but I think some changes have been made, and this also needs to be recognized.
But you have a country where homosexuality is criminalised, and is there not a danger of a harsh response by Qatari authorities if any form of protest, particularly about gay rights, are held during this event?
I don't know. I mean, I hope that there will be a relaxed response to all kinds of protests. There might be also others who advocate the Palestinian cause. That's a big issue here in the Arab world. There might be advocates of LGBTQ rights. So I suggest to choose a relaxed response, but I'm not the one who makes a decision. So we need to see. But when it comes to homosexuality, I mean, as a political science professor, just to provide a little bit of context, this is illegal in around 70 countries in the world, unfortunately, and Qatar is one of them. And on paper, there is prosecution, but in reality, it's not happening. So I think every homosexual person should be not worried to come here.
As a result, do you see the event bringing about substantial change in Qatari society?
Yes, but we cannot now relate everything it changed to FIFA. So this country has started to change in the mid-90s with the establishment of Education City, for example, where I work. So it established Al Jazeera, a TV channel that is doing much more nuanced reporting than other channels in the region. So change is happening. But as I always say, you can change an infrastructure overnight, but not a culture. And culture changes are happening more gradually. But it's happening. And I also want to proudly report that 70% of our students at Georgetown are women. and more women enter the labor market and have influential positions also in the government. So I see the changes happening, but maybe not as fast as everybody wishes.
Danyel Reiche, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.